Mark Wahlberg strode onto the late-night stage with his familiar confidence and infectious grin, as the cheering audience welcomed him warmly. Stephen Colbert greeted him with friendly enthusiasm and a handshake that signaled a spirited but respectful tone. Wahlberg took his seat and the interview started lightheartedly, with jokes about his morning coffee routine and his early days in the music industry. He told funny anecdotes about working on movie sets and hardship, joking about how he used to learn his lines in cramped trailers with poor air conditioning. Colbert laughed along and asked about Wahlberg's passion for fitness and family. Everything felt easy and warm, with genuine laughter filling the studio. But beneath the polite banter, a tension lingered in Wahlberg's gaze, fleeting but noticeable, as the host steered the conversation towards social media controversies and celebrity culture wars. Colbert made a casual remark about Wahlberg's past comments on hot-button issues, framing it as a comedic segue. Wahlberg's grin stiffened for a moment. The tone had shifted, and the mood changed palpably. Something serious had just begun. Colbert leaned in, pressing for Wahlberg's take on a recent viral video in which Wahlberg had defended a polarizing political figure. Wahlberg paused, his jaw tightening. He gave a curt answer, noting that he cared about loyalty and respected different opinions. But he bristled when Colbert mocked him, suggesting he was blindly following trends. The crowd chuckled nervously at the host's jab. Wahlberg frowned and took a breath. "Are we doing this tonight?" he asked with a seriousness that drew silence. Colbert quipped, "We're just having fun." But Wahlberg wasn't amused. He explained that he believed people should think for themselves, instead of conforming to social media mobs. Colbert nodded, but his tone remained facetious. He asked if Wahlberg was worried about his public image. Wahlberg answered honestly, admitting he'd been criticized unfairly but still tried to stand his ground. The laughter died as the tone darkened. This was no longer a friendly chat. Wahlberg was laying down his beliefs. Colbert raised an eyebrow. The host pushed again, implying Wahlberg's views were tone-deaf. That question hit hard. Wahlberg leaned forward, ready to respond with an answer that would change the night. Wahlberg spoke calmly but with authority, saying that publicly owned platforms were ruled by echo chambers, and that dialogue had become impossible. He said he wanted to talk about solutions, not sound bites. Colbert replied dryly, saying, "Not everyone wants solutions. Some want ratings." That comment hit Wahlberg like a punch. He shook his head slowly and said, "We're not here to perform for ratings." The audience went quiet. The energy shifted again, thicker and more serious. Colbert tried to keep it light, asking about Wahlberg's blockbuster movie releases, but Wahlberg interrupted, "Not until we address what just happened here." Now they were in the middle of a clash. Neither of them looked away. Wahlberg spoke of his desire for meaningful conversations. Colbert countered with skepticism. Each statement built on the last until the room felt electric. The audience watched in tense anticipation, wondering how far the conversation could go. It wasn't comedy anymore. It was confrontation, and both men were in the middle of it. Stephen tried to lighten the mood with a quick joke, referencing Wahlberg's past roles in family movies, but Wahlberg didn't respond. Instead, he stared straight ahead and said, "Is this the platform for disrespect disguised as humor?" That question landed like a bomb. Colbert's smile flickered. He tried to laugh it off, but the laughter sounded hollow. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Both men paused. Wahlberg folded his hands and continued slowly, saying he valued honesty more than punchlines. Colbert attempted an apology, saying he hadn't meant to disrespect Wahlberg. Wahlberg shook his head. "That's the point," he said. "We're conditioned to accept half-hearted apologies when real accountability is needed." The tension became palpable. Colbert's expression turned serious as he processed the words. He attempted to pivot back to Wahlberg's charitable work, but the moment had passed. Wahlberg leaned back, giving the host time to respond. The silence that followed was deafening. Colbert took a deep breath and tried to salvage the interaction. He acknowledged Wahlberg's contributions to charity and community and expressed genuine admiration. Wahlberg acknowledged the words but reminded the host that admiration meant little without respect. "I'm here," Wahlberg said, "not just as your guest, but as a human being." The audience watched, riveted by the sincerity. Colbert nodded, slowly, visibly moved, and said, "I respect you, Mark." But Wahlberg shook his head again. The tension hadn't dissipated. Instead, it thickened. "Respect isn't stated. It's demonstrated," Wahlberg said quietly but firmly. He looked into the camera, as if speaking to people watching at home, then back at Stephen. There was no anger, only firmness. The audience held their breath. Now the show's producers began scrambling off camera. Colbert glanced to the side. The moment felt unscripted and powerful. It had gone beyond talk show banter. It had become something raw, something true. Mark Wahlberg stood to leave, his posture resolute. "I think I've made my point," he said, voice steady. "This ends here." With that, he began walking toward the backstage. Colbert rose too, putting forward a hand, but Wahlberg didn't turn. He paused, looked back once, and said, "Thank you for having me, but we're done." Then he walked out, exiting through the curtains in silence. The audience sat stunned. Cameras lingered, capturing Stephen looking unsettled in the empty chair. The house lights dimmed, then cut to commercial. Social media erupted instantly. Clips went viral with labels like "Mark storms out" and "Respect over ratings." The story spread like wildfire. The internet split. Some applauded Wahlberg's courage, others felt he overreacted. Talk show norms were questioned. Debate raged across platforms. The clash had become symbolic. It transcended celebrity. It was a moment about respect, integrity, and what we expect from public discourse. Next morning, news outlets covered the event extensively. Analysts dissected every nuance of the conversation. Guests on morning shows debated whether celebrities should be held to account or allowed to walk away from insincere dialogue. A spokesperson for Stephen Colbert Live issued a statement expressing regret if Wahlberg felt disrespected and reiterating respect for Wahlberg's accomplishments. Wahlberg replied through his rep saying he valued the opportunity, but stood by his decision to exit if the conversation lacked sincerity. The internet responded with passion. Memes, think pieces, podcasts, all weighed in. Some said it signaled a new era for celebrity interviews. Others worried it might chill honest conversation. The pressure rippled through late-night shows. Producers began campaigning for more thoughtful guest prep. Writers were reminded that punchlines should not come at the cost of respect. The clash between two giants had illuminated changing expectations in media. Mark Wahlberg returned to work quietly. He took part in charitable events, film screenings, and gave interviews on platforms that allowed richer dialogue. He never spoke harshly about Stephen Colbert, only saying in a later podcast, "I'm not angry, I'm just assertive about standards." That interview resonated. Audiences appreciated Wahlberg's clarity and calm stance. Meanwhile, Stephen Colbert addressed the matter a week later in a monologue, acknowledging the moment as a reminder to hold ourselves to higher standards when going for laughs. His tone was reflective and sincere. Critics noted the difference. The show seemed quieter, more thoughtful. The host still entertained, but with gentler awareness. The reverberations continued. Other public figures referenced the incident when explaining why they sometimes decline talk show invites. The conversation had shifted. Boundaries between humor and respect were being renegotiated, and everyone could feel it. Months later, clips of Wahlberg's walk-off were still being shared in discussions about media literacy and communication etiquette. Professors used it in university media courses, illustrating the importance of authenticity in public discourse. Talk show producers revamped their guest segment protocols. In interviews, Wahlberg explained that the incident taught him, "We don't need permission to protect ourselves." The quote became widely circulated on social media. He continued acting, producing, and supporting community projects, but with renewed emphasis on authenticity. He became a model not just of success but of self-respect. The choice to leave quietly but firmly defined a moment of cultural evolution. It wasn't about drama or ratings. It was about dignity. And for those watching, it became a lesson in how to communicate and when to walk away. In the end, Mark Wahlberg's exit from Stephen Colbert's show became a landmark moment in late-night history. It wasn't about rage or scandal. It was about the power of principled silence. It reminded viewers and industry leaders that respect is non-negotiable, that even on a comedy stage, sincerity matters, that deciding when to leave is as powerful as the punchline you don't deliver. In that quiet departure, two men revealed vulnerabilities, integrity, and human complexity. Years from now, the details may blur, but the moment remains, the time when the funny broke free from the superficial and demanded something deeper. And in doing so, it reshaped how audiences expect conversations to unfold in public life.